Our district is on the 90-10 plan, so 90% of the students' grade is summative, 10% is formative homework, and any other thing that you assign. So the amount of homework that the students actually do.
That's not my favorite plan. Can we change it?
We would like to. The teachers have voiced some opinions about it.
Yeah.
I think more formative than summative. I would rather 90 formative, 10 summative. Really, I mean, honestly, formative data is so much
more valuable.
Yeah.
And if you put that on the students,
and with the formative data, you're looking at it. Formative becomes summative as you keep collecting it. You're like, okay,
you get a picture.
But at the same time, if I assign that for homework, what am I assessing? Am I assessing?
And we can't put that on our grade book.
I'm assessing their ability to reflect.
It's a behavior compliance grade, so it's not allowed in our book. You only can.
We really need to talk about standards-based grading at you. Where are you guys again?
Valley View.
We really need to talk.
The only things, and there's not even a place to put in things that are not a number. So you can't put in like a check mark if something's just been completed.
I could have a field day over there.
Yeah.
They would never come
No.
bad.
I just wanted to add one other thing too, because I think, what you're talking about here is so important as we're moving kids, on a college trajectory.
Yeah.
We're trying to move them towards investing.
Self-assessment.
Investing in their own learning, and the way to do that is by engaging them in reflection and having them figure out what do I need to know to get better at this.
Yeah, and I really do think that self-assessment piece is where we get them aware of their own learning. And then it's them setting their goals instead of us. And it takes some of the burden, not that the burden, but their education is it's a shared experience. It's not just my job.
I just get into a rut of they're going to make goals here, they're going to make goals for the park, they're going to make goals for the map, they're going to make goals for Odyssey.
But they're all going to lead to each other. I think they all need to be based off of the same standards. They all need to, in fact, the newer versions I've done, we always have the standard number on these, because I think, like you saw the one that I showed you, I always put the standard number on everything, because if they don't know what standard, and you don't know what standard, everything should be tracked by the code of the standard. And I color code everything now too, because it's for me.
Why not? Yes.
Oh yeah, this is a green. Some of them I know, all the EEs are always green, but I mean, some of the other ones I have to think about. This is an assessment where we're looking at modes of representation, and we're thinking, well, which modes of representation does a kid use? So I see them making diagrams. I see them using language. I see them using equations, this because of this. So what modes are they using? Then I can start tracking. I can look at their product to see how many modes they're using, but then I'm also going to watch them while they're working. If they got up, grabbed a tool, built it with a tool, then drew something, put the tool back, now I saw them use another mode. And then I can even make note. They used the right tool versus chose the wrong tool and had to trade it in for a new tool. Sometimes they do. I like this. I want to use, 2 color counters. Well, that's great, except for when you're doing area, they're round. So I'm not sure that that's the right tool, but they like them because they're colorful. Whatever. This is from Marzano, and Marzano actually has a website now that I should have put on here because I always forget what it is. His website has these item response theory rubrics where he's kind of fleshed it out. I'm going to send that to you too. Marzano's, where he's taken this rubric and kind of said, here's an idea, here's what it could look like at a 4, 3, 2, 1, or kind of idea. I like the fact that he's starting fleshing some of these things out. Some of them I don't always agree with, but that's okay, it's a start. Some of them I think are really good. So just that idea of, it'd be nice if it was all based on the standards, and I think they're moving that direction, they're just not done. Depends on, how well they know the standards. I find it interesting how you go see some of these gurus on education, and they have to do their homework and really read the standards, but they're so busy presenting all over the place that
it's true.
They don't have time
it's
to do
very
that.
True.
They're so in such a high demand that they haven't all done. Not that he hasn't, but just sometimes. So the colored sand is an example. I don't know why I picked on 6th grade so much, because I'm starting with 6th grade tomorrow, Monday. I guess that's when I'm meeting with first. So I was pulling all their samples. Colored sand is a rich task example, where we're looking at just one standard, 6RP1, and trying to flesh it out with an application. And then we made a rubric specific to this task, which is kind of how the park is gonna be doing things. They're going to have, for each task, they have specific rubrics, 4, 3, 2, 1, you know, whatever, however the point value is. 2 points for this, 3 points for that kind of thing, 1 point for this. It's specific in their evaluation. And each one of the vendors that I reviewed ETS and Pearson, they both have a different system that they use, but they both have rubrics for their rich tasks. They always have a scoring instrument of some type. Not all of them are exactly like this. I like this one because it's easier to think about it standards-based. It's very standards-based. It's looking at the complexity of the task. And when we were looking at it, you know, if you have to use a grading system, we were talking that, you know, to get an A, it's either a 4 or a 3.5, a B would be a 3 or a 2.5, a C, you know, if you have to connect it, you set the rules. I think the argument that teachers have is the difference between simple and complex. Because to me, simple is procedural, but there are some complex procedures. You know, if simple would be maybe one-step procedures, where complex might be, maybe a 2.5 procedure would be a multi-step procedure, but
Once you get to 8th grade, everything's complex then.
Yes and no, because they have to do the simple one-step parts to do the multi-step parts. I mean, if they learn some processes, they learn how to use the Pythagorean theorem, you know, and
But to solve the Pythagorean theorem, you would need multiple steps.
it depends on how much information you're given. You know, so some of the things that 8th grade does are still. Anytime we're learning a new procedure in the beginning, it usually starts out simple, and then it builds in complexity. But when we look at the applications are complex. Concepts are, you know, when we use multiple modes of representation and transfer between them, that's complex. When you construct a viable argument and critique the reasoning of others, that's complex. So I look at Norm Webb's depth of knowledge, kind of thinking, if it's a 1, it's you know, if it's a knowledge level, it's simple. If it's a 2, I'm debating 2 could be simple, could be complex, depending upon the grade level, depending upon where are they at. If it's a 3 or 4, it's complex. So that's kind of the guideline. But everything is, you have to kind of have that conversation as a team. What are we going to interpret this as? How are we going to make our system? Because the state's not going to do that for you. You know, our state team is going to make some models, and then we're hoping that people take them and personalize them. I don't expect people to use them as is.
This is a task.
This would be a task. It's a multi-step problem that I think it could be used for instruction, or it could be used for assessment. We have another one that's about paint mixtures. That's the step above this, where they're using multiple standards in that one. So it's not just 6RP1, it's 6NS4, I think. I mean, there's a couple standards involved in it, so it's multi-faceted. And I think we need tasks at various levels. We want to see those integrated tasks. We also want to see simple tasks that are really just zeroing in on one standard. This is one of the simpler ones, I think. Simple one standard. And I think the one I used in, I've used a lot with the 8th grade. We have one about cubes and cube roots and squares and square roots, and it's about painting a room and dimensions. And that one is multiple standards. It's a little bit more complex. That's one thing. Given that one out of ton, I think we'll see it somewhere. I think that's why I grabbed this one, because I feel like I've painted a room a lot. Okay, so those are some samples of different ones. And this is the painting room. I put it in here. Mark and Evan are twins. They share an interesting bedroom. The room has a 12-foot ceiling, and the dimensions are 12 feet by 12 feet. Their parents have agreed to let them redecorate the room by painting the walls. Since they can't agree on a color, they have decided to paint 2 walls one color and 2 walls another color. Evan's color will take 3 coats of paint to effectively cover each wall. Mark's color will only need 2 coats of paint for each wall. Write 2 equations that could be used to solve the problem. Use exponents for at least 1. Because their expectation is that they can write an equation, and they're also supposed to be using exponents. So we're making those 2 scripts. Yeah. If 1 gallon covers 250 square feet, how much paint needs to be purchased? One of Mark's walls has a window that is 3 feet by 4 feet, and the other has a door that is 8 feet by 3 feet. One of Evan's walls has a closet that is 6 feet by 8 feet. How much paint do they actually need, since they will not be painting the window, door, or closet areas? So, I just like that it's multi-faceted. When we look at some of the sample park items, they have part A, part B, part C, where it builds in complexity. So I think this is a task that mirrors, it's a little bit longer than some of the park ones I've seen, but that's why I kind of like it for instruction too. Mark's paint costs $18.99 per gallon, and Evan's paint costs $21.99 per gallon. What's the cost of the paint for this project? So we're getting into other things. Their parents have agreed to let them paint the game room. The game room is cube. One wall, I would hope that they notice that their room is also a cube, but maybe not. One wall has a door that is 8 feet by 3 feet, and the volume is 829 cubic feet. What are the dimensions of the room? I like throwing in extraneous information periodically that has nothing to do with what they need to solve, just to see if they get thrown by it. If they buy 2 extra gallons of Mark's paint, will they have enough of Mark's paint to paint all 4 walls with 2 coats of paint in the game room? Why or why not? That's a whole day, right?
Definitely.
It could be 2 days. And I think it's okay to spend 2 days on one context and just tear it to shreds. Okay, so now feels like a good time for a stretch break because we've assessed a lot, right? And that way you can